afternoon and welcome to our very first mental health and wellbeing virtual roundtable in partnership with Crystal Specialist Finance. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Beth Fisher, editor at MediaNet, the publisher of both Bridging and Commercial and Development Finance Today, and also the bi-monthly print Bridging and Commercial magazine. Crystal launched its ongoing mental health and wellbeing campaign for the intermediary sector back in August last year, which aims to help individuals in our market identify and take the necessary steps to overcome isolation, stress, grief, financial worries, and fears about the future. The campaign kicked off with its first survey, which probed the feelings of UK mortgage advisors and introducers, and which then expanded into a series of online interviews to discuss professional and personal challenges many of us have faced over the years. Today we will be exclusively revealing Crystal's second mental health and wellbeing survey. This looks at how many hours intermediaries are working per week, how many days of holiday they're taking, how much sleep they're getting, and also the rate, how they rate their overall level of mental wellbeing. Later on, we will also consider how companies can boost workplace wellbeing for their staff and why this should be considered a key part of business growth and investment. Considering we have all adapted to new ways of working almost overnight during the pandemic, we should also be able to evolve the way we view, discuss, and prioritise mental health and wellbeing to ensure the workplace environment is happier and healthier for all. We hope today's discussion will uncover some of the common challenges our industry is facing and how we can tackle them. The conversation is long overdue in the specialist finance and mortgage sector, and we aim to highlight that brokers are not alone and help is available. Today we have a fantastic panel of experts in the financial services industry, including Jason Berry, who is leading this important campaign, and also 4 of the 12 people who have agreed to step forward this year to tell their stories over video interview, and have also made themselves available to support individuals who may need someone to talk to about their own difficulties. We have published a few of these interviews already on B&C and have included relevant contact details in these if you would like to reach out. Before we start, I would like to warn that some of today's discussion may contain references of grief. I will also be putting a link to mental health charity Mind in the chat box if you wanted to check that out. And I would also like to note that none of us here are trained or professional mental health experts. We are simply here to emphasise the importance of listening and encouraging conversations in the industry to improve mental health. A saying I wholeheartedly believe in is a problem shared is a problem halved. So now is the perfect time for me to hand this over to our panelists, who will each spend around 2 minutes introducing themselves. So I'm going to start with Jason.
Okay, so look, afternoon everyone. So my name is Jason Berry. I'm Group Sales and Marketing Director at Crystal Specialist Finance, as Beth indicates. I've spent over 30 years in this marketplace now, starting out as a financial advisor back in 1991. Progressing into the lending sector in 98, and ultimately I led the sales channel at Platform Home Loans for a number of years, but most notably during the difficult 2009 period when I suppose the last financial crisis occurred. I've been blessed to work in financial services all this time, and it's been an amazing experience most of the time. However, inevitably there has been some terrible lows, but luckily I've had brilliant family support and a real close network of friends to help me through even the most challenging of times. That's not the case for everyone, which is why I felt the campaign was long overdue, and it's a campaign that I'm really passionate about. So as Beth indicates, it was an initiative that we started in August of last year, and it's very much an initiative, as I say, that I'm passionate about, and it's gathering some real growing momentum. So I'm grateful to Bethany and the MediaNet team for actually giving us the platform to have this discussion around the survey results today. So that's me.
Thanks, Jason. I think I had another audio issue there, but I hope you can all hear me clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Paula, would you like to go next?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Paula Petty. I'm Intermediary Sales Manager North for Together. I've been at Together now for just over 2 years, but a little bit like Jason, been in lending for, gosh, it's a bit embarrassing to say, probably 30 years plus, but more in the specialist area, just over 20 years. Really enjoy it, and like Jason, was yeah, saw some interesting times in 2008, 2009, where there was so much uncertainty and the world looked very different. So I think we all had challenges and worries then, and perhaps ended up carrying out roles that we perhaps didn't see ourselves doing. I was working on the collection side of a lender for a period of time, something I didn't foresee, but as they say, what doesn't break you makes you stronger, so all good stuff. Really, very supportive of this campaign, and I think it's really important. And I think a lot of people just don't always feel very comfortable sharing things. So hopefully we're seeing us all today being very open and honest. It will really encourage people to share their thoughts and their concerns with somebody like Jason said, maybe close to them. I've been very fortunate. I have a wonderful family who have supported me through lots of different times, and some really good friends, and it does make a difference, but I do appreciate that isn't the case for everybody. So I think today will be really good to chat.
Thanks, Paula. Gavin?
Hi, I'm Gavin from Shawbrook. I've been in the specialist lending industry since the mid-90s, so rather than putting a round figure of years on it, I let people work out the maths there for that one. Kind of seen the highs and lows as well. Started off in collections and worked my way through underwriting and into business development and sales, etc. And yeah, it's been kind of almost in the last year, kind of was a bit reminiscent to 2008, 2009. Started the same worries occurred, people talking about the similar scenarios, but thankfully kind of coming through the other side now. And we're just really proud at Shawbrook to be part of this with Jason working closely, because we think it's a really specialist who's close to myself and to us as an organisation as well. So we're really pleased to be supporting it today and look forward to some good discussion, and hopefully people get something from it and can help share and build with others on this as well.
Thanks, Gavin. Scott?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Scott Howie. I'm sales director for a company called Chartwell Mortgage Services based in the northwest of England. I've been in this industry for 26 years now. So various roles in various businesses, but I'm very proud of where I'm at the minute and growing our business. I guess this whole campaign and supporting Jason in his quest around mental health and is fundamental to some of the things I believe in personally. I've unfortunately been in a situation where I've been personal health has been affected twice quite seriously, but come through fortunately, touch wood, both sides, and it's helped me in terms of where I'm at now with my life. Recently just become a granddad, which is terrific, another chapter in our lives. So I'm more than happy to support and help in all things mental health, particularly within our industry. I'm absolutely passionate about the mortgage broker industry, having been in it for so long. So anybody that benefits from anything that we say or do, our actions or words from today and any other sessions that we do is absolutely vitally important. So again, more than happy to support a truly great cause.
Great, thanks, Scott. And Andrew. Monty?
Hi everyone, and yeah, honoured to be here. It's I've been in the industry 27 years, 2 months, 24 days and 5 hours, I think, but who's counting, eh? So it's been a long journey, ups, downs, lows, highs, and I think really happy to support this campaign and everything Jason's doing and the team. It's something that's really important. I've long since been a exponent of actually it is okay not to be okay. It's really important to talk about things, and it's something that I'm very open, honest, wear my heart on my sleeve type of person, and I think it's really important that we as an industry come together and really deal with all of the issues that people have, and show that wherever you are within your company, it is okay and there are people to talk to, and hopefully this campaign will just make people more aware of it. And as I said in an interview with Jason, actually sometimes a kind word can literally save a life. and it's important that we get this message out there.
Absolutely, thank you very much. So we are going to start now with a quick slideshow, just going through the survey results of Crystal's latest survey. They did one in August last year as well. I also just want to remind the audience that you can submit your questions through the throughout the panel discussions, and you can do this in your chat box on the screen. And we'll aim to answer those in the last 10 minutes of the session. So I'm going to share my screen now, just so that you can see the slideshow. So give me 1 second. Okay, so this is obviously the latest one. It hasn't gone out yet, so we're exclusively revealing the results of this, and there's some really interesting findings here, which I'd like to chat through with everyone. So this one, this graph here shows that on average 17% of intermediaries worked over 60 hours per week. So that's between 60 and more than 75. So that is more than 12 hours per day, and this is up from 12% from the survey last year, which I'll just move to now. So you'll see the kind of difference here in terms of how many hours people are working. So it has gone up quite a bit. What do you think this is healthy? Jason, do you want to start with this? What do you think is causing people to work this many hours?
Look, I think we operate in a sector which is very industrious, and people do work hard, and usually get the rewards that come on the back of working hard. I think the figures are probably influenced by stamp duty and increasing pipelines that the marketplace and the advisors have actually had in recent months. But whilst that might be great from an income perspective, and there's clients out there that we inevitably need to service, the percentages suggest that 1 in 5 are working more than 60+ hours, which to me doesn't seem particularly healthy. So I don't think the trend is a particularly healthy one, but I think it's almost an inevitable one, and making every day count, seizing the opportunity, being industrious is kind of a trait that seems to be ingrained within the broker community. But it does seem a little bit on the high side.
Gavin, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think Jason's correct. I think there's a lot of market drivers behind this at the moment. So brokers obviously having to manage their clients' expectations and pipeline cases and applications. So to our lenders, which in turn will create a lot more of a workflow there. I think for me, and from a personal point of view, it's knowing that your office is currently your home a lot of the time as well. So it's trying to create that differential between actually now's the time to stop. It's 8 o'clock in the evening. Now is the time to stop and put the pen down and turn the mobile off and shut the office door. Because technically, if it's your bedroom or your kitchen side or wherever you are, it's technically your office for that period. And I think you're finding an extension to work times because of that as well. So it's just trying to, yes, we understand you have to be industrious, like Jay said, and work hard, but it's finding that balance as well.
Paula, do you expect this trend at the moment to continue this year, or do you think people will start to get a better balance?
I would like to hope. I think back on what Gavin and Jason have both said, I think it's a bit of a concern, and I think it's getting the balance. The working day has completely shifted. We've all been working from home, and it looks very different. I think you do have to be quite strict with yourself and perhaps have a cut-off point. Otherwise, you find that you're just working 12, 13-hour days and don't really realise it. And I also think, to an extent, our industry is so used to really engaging with people face to face, and it's a big positive. And suddenly now we're either at the end of a screen like we are today, or on the phone, or there's email. And I think the different ways of communicating have impacted and made it a very different day. It's much more, people are expecting a response much quicker because we're not in cars traveling around all over the place. So they're thinking, and I think there is an element, I know personally, I put myself under a lot of pressure because I think, oh, well, they know I'm not zooming around. They know I'm sitting at home. I better get this done and get it done quickly. So an answer to your question, I hope it changes. I think it'll take quite some time, and I don't think a lot of organisations are pushing their staff to go back in the office. And I think because there is still an element of uncertainty with COVID and whatever, I don't maybe see much change until maybe the latter part of this year, perhaps the early part of next year. But I do think there needs to be a change for our own mental well-being, to be quite honest.
Absolutely. I'm just going to move on to the next slide, which is all about how many days of holiday intermediaries took in 2020. So if you have a look here, almost 15% of intermediaries did not take one holiday last year. And I understand, you know, with the pandemic and a lack of places to go, that probably played into that. But why do you think there was a lack of holiday usage last year, and what impact do you think this has had on the overall market in terms of well-being? Andrew, do you want to kick us off with that one?
Yeah, so I'm in that 15%. I think it's really difficult, isn't it? Everything that was said before, you know, my commute to my office is now 15 seconds instead of an hour. And it is really difficult to have that switch off time. And the same as holidays. You think, well, I can't actually go anywhere, so I'm knocking around the house. So I might as well I'll just take this call. I'll just send this email. And before you know it, you've done a whole day's work. So even the days I've actually booked off holidays, and I know loads of my colleagues have done the same thing. You booked a day of holiday in your calendar, but then you sit down and think, well, I might as well just do an hour. And then before you know it, it's 3, 4 o'clock and you haven't done anything. So I do worry about this a lot, because for your brain to really switch off, I always say when I go on holiday, the first 5 days, I'm still sort of in work mode and I'm still a bit edgy and I'm still a bit worried about what's going on. And then after 5 days, you realise that life does go on, and actually I'm lucky you've got a fantastic team, and they, you know, I don't really need to be there, and then you relax. And we haven't had that at all. So there's been no sustained period of time where someone's taken a week or 2 weeks off and just literally shut down and relaxed. And that does take its toll, together with the longer working hours. Generally, that is a concern for me, that people have not had that switch off time at all, and that's where issues start to arise, because you then get into a cycle where actually it becomes more normal and more normal and more normal. And I look at the prospect of returning to work now as, how the hell am I going to get my day into a normal working day? How am I going to fit in a commute there and back? How am I going to fit in lunch? How am I going to fit in going and getting 3 coffees a day? How am I going to fit in talking to people? And then before you know it, I haven't got time to actually do work. But you do. That's a normal working day, and we've lost sight of that. So it's going to be a really interesting transition back to some kind of normality. I think it will start getting better as more social events are open, as the pubs start to open, as we can actually go out and spend some time and have drinks with people. I think actually that will start to relax people, and that's really, really important. So yeah, I do worry that this lack of holiday is going to start taking a toll.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point there on you know, the kind of transition period on going back to the office, and that, you know, we might not be as productive as we'd expect to be, because we're eating into that time where we would be commuting, or, you know, taking a lunch break, or whatever the case is, you know, chatting to people in the office. So there's all of those things, and I hope companies do kind of use this transition period, if, you know, if they are, you know, getting people back into the office, to see like where, you know, where workload is going and where time is being used, just so that it's not kind of expected what's happening now is also going to be happening in the office, because there is going to have to be a little bit of a transition period for people to get used to. So really, really interesting point there.
Beth, sorry, we actually had quite a contradictory scenario as well in towards the end of February and March, where HR departments, and I'm sure we weren't alone in this, but you had HR departments who were encouraging people who had maybe spent time on furlough but were back working, but they're encouraging them to actually take holidays. So, and that had a twofold effect. One, it was obviously affecting productivity, but more importantly, particularly to the topic we're talking about today, was that we were encouraging people to take time off and have holiday, but sit at home without being able to go anywhere because of the lockdown scenario. So it was quite counterintuitive and a little bit contradictory to particularly today's topic.
Absolutely, I completely agree, and it is one of those things where I think many people probably thought, what, and Andrew said it earlier as well, how can we want to take holiday off when there wasn't a huge amount to look forward to in terms of going out. But as we see restrictions lift, which we are obviously seeing, and fingers crossed that continues to June. Scott, do you think that this trend in terms of how many days of holiday that people are taking will continue, or will we start seeing more people take holidays, do you think?
I think we'll probably see the polar opposite, to be honest. I mean, the thing is, in our industry, I think it's always been the same. I don't think it's been any different. I think people work very, very, very hard and mentally long hours, as we've already seen. And I think honestly, quite genuinely, when people want a holiday, they want to go on holiday. They don't want to sit in the houses, being bored senseless, because all that happens, and I've done it myself, and I continue to do it, is you've got your mobile. You think you're detached from work. You're actually never detached from it in reality, unless you put the mobile phone in a locked drawer. Forget about it. But then after about 10 minutes, as Andy said, you get that itch of going, I need to know what's going. We're all a bit control freakish, I think, in this industry. We need to know what's going off. So we have a look, and then we send an email, and then that email gets sent to 3 other people. Then you get 17 answers, and you have to answer. And so it's a bit of a vicious circle, to be honest. I totally agree with Andrew in actual, because when you do go on holiday, and I think we all do it, it takes you 5 days to wind down, 5 days where you're actually on holiday, detached, sunbathing, absolutely fine, and then it takes you 4 days to wind back up. So it is very difficult. It is very, very difficult, and the odd day or two here and there, just for me, it never seems to work. You just never, because you think I'm not away long enough for me to switch off. But so it is difficult. It's a compromise, and it takes a lot of discipline. As I've said, I think once things start to open back up and we start to get back to something like normality, then perhaps and we can go on holiday without the shackles on of booking a holiday in wherever, and we can get on the, then that'll be great for everybody, I'm sure. I mean, to have no holidays is I understand why that happens, by the way. I do understand that, but it isn't very good for people, not at all, because you're completely engaged all the time, and you do need that time to stand back and think, am I doing the right things? Because you do need that time. And weekends unfortunately don't do that. If you support a team like my team, you're completely on edge all the time, thinking what's going to happen on Saturday or Sunday.
The perils of success. To Man City, eh?
Just being a Liverpool.
I'm just moving on to the next slide, which is all about sleep. I don't have a question for this one, but I just want to show the differences in terms of how many hours of sleep people are getting, and it seems the majority in both, the first survey, which is this one, and today's survey, the majority are saying that they never get enough sleep, with the 8-hour recommendation. So I think that also is kind of playing into what everyone is talking about today, where people are finding it quite difficult to switch off, and the number of hours that we're working are increasing. So I think that is playing into this, unless anyone has any kind of contradictory point of view there.
I think all I would probably add to this, Beth, is that look, it is a high number. What one in 4 are never getting enough sleep, which is quite alarming again. But I struggle to get sleep, frequently, and I also wake up early. And sometimes, that can sap the energy levels. And I've been open to ideas and thoughts to see, if I can get any help on that. And Gav mentioned it before we started this call. Actually, I use an app called Headspace, which is it's brilliant. It'd be like listening to. I'm trying to think of somebody who I really don't like, who talks in a very dull, monotone voice and would send you to sleep. But that's exactly what it is. It's a really useful app that helps you get to sleep, but also if you wake up in the middle of the night, it can send you to sleep then. So I think there are some useful tools and resources out there that people can use and embrace that actually are quite effective.
Brilliant. I also use the Calm app, and I find that really good to have in the background. Just kind of gives some different background noises. If any of you also are struggling to sleep, I find that great to use.
For something a little bit different, Radio 1 have just done on their BBC Sounds app. They've just done a whole chill section, and they've broken it down into really, really good pieces. Whether it's meditations dealing with stress, but also some really chilled out music like Annie Mac's Decompression Zone and stuff like that. So for people who want something a little bit different, highly recommend that.
Brilliant, thank you. Thanks for the recommendation. This slide talks about career prospects this year, and you can see the overwhelming majority expect to stay in their current role. And just under 7% expect to change this. And then you can see the sorry, actually that wasn't from last year, but for this one. So I mean, does this surprise anyone? I think the figure, the 5.41% expecting their business to reduce this year or take a backward step with their existing firm if they're employed. I think that's it's not a huge figure, but it's still a sizable figure. Do any of these figures here today kind of surprise anyone at all?
I don't think the 5.41 people particularly is because of the period of time we've just been through. I think that's quite natural in any year, to be honest. I don't think that's that doesn't surprise me at all. I think we're in an industry at the minute which I honestly, hand on heart, I would say I don't think there's a better time to be in this industry. I think at the minute it's absolutely buoyant, and I would say any firm that's looking to retract has probably got other I won't say issues, but there are other things that are happening to that business. I would say for a business like ours, it's absolutely prosper time. It's this complete opposite, to be honest, because buyer demand opportunity is fantastic. It really is. It really is. So I'm not surprised by that, but I think it's probably more to do with historic than now.
Sure.
You've got the optimism of. Sorry, you have the optimism of nearly 25% who are looking to grow, right, as well. If you pull that out for our industry, which is real positive for me.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well is a lot of this is about communication. A lot of this is about the people in the leaders of businesses communicating what their plans are to staff. And you get the complete and utter buy-in if you can openly communicate that information. I think the ones that probably think it's going backwards are the ones that don't get talked to, they get left alone, and they don't know what's happening. So it's a bit of the unknown. It's just better to tell the staff, not in explicit detail, but what your plans are.
Definitely. With these results, and that's just on the screen now, this kind of rates intermediaries' overall level of contentment, and you can see the comparison between this year and last August. So you can see here that there's been quite a noticeable drop in the number of intermediaries who love what they do. So you've got 22% last year, and you've got 13% this year, and then you've got 50% who are moderately happy. why do you think that there are less people who love what they do now than maybe August last year?
I think the job's hard. I think it's tough at the moment. It's been tough all year. You're dealing with people. You're dealing with a massive amount of lead flow. All of a sudden, a massive amount of people trying to beat a stamp duty deadline. You're dealing with changes in criteria from lenders left, right, and centre, keeping up with that. It's all consuming at the moment, and it is quite a stressful time to be a broker generally. So I can understand why, to factor in all the other things we've said about working hours and lack of sleep and lack of holidays. And it's being a mortgage broker has always been a job that is 24/7 anyway, and even more so at the moment when you're inundated. And I look at some of the people in our company, and they're stressed, they're busy, they're really busy, they're getting referral after referral. Some of the guys and girls who've been doing it a long time, who are getting their own lead flow, they're inundated, and there's no switch off. And then you get difficult decisions from lenders that you can't understand. You're getting some difficult decisions from valuers. There's a whole range of things that are part and parcel of a mortgage broker's job in any normal time. But at the moment, it's all it's in a lot sharper focused and a lot more volume. So it just feels like it's a lot. It feels like every single case is a lot harder than in a normal market.
Definitely, and I think that's a good point to emphasise on. And if I'm sure there are many brokers who are either watching today or who aren't, but feel the same way, that there are a lot of other people in the same boat. They are feeling this. It's not, you're not alone with this. So I think it's really good to emphasise that, and also just to talk to your peers, colleagues, anyone in the market about the kind of frustrations or challenges you're seeing, because it's clearly something that's affecting a lot of people. Moving on to this, I don't have a question for this, but I think it's worth just kind of noting that the top kind of 3 or 4 important factors that people are saying are most important to their well-being haven't really changed a huge deal, as you can see. So the main things here are happy relationships, financial independence, fitness and diet, and enough sleep and rest. So obviously the points we were making earlier about not getting enough sleep, that is a huge factor for intermediaries, and so that is something which I'm hoping changes as people kind of look to get a better work-life balance. So that's just worth noting there. So what I think is one of the biggest findings from the survey is that a number of intermediaries who rated their overall level of mental well-being as of concern. So we've got almost 18% here, whereas if you look at August last year, that was just under 7%. So that's almost that's almost tripled. Why do you think this has happened? Why do you think we've seen such a drastic jump in such a short space of time?
I think it's partly everything that I just talked about in terms of the stresses and strains of the job, and all the things we've all talked about, lack of holidays, working hours, etc. But also you've got to remember this is a health scare as well, generally. So a lot of people are also have been genuinely worried about their health or the health of their loved ones or elderly relatives, etc. So it's just been an extraordinary 12 months. I'm worried about my kids, and are they falling behind at at school, or actually how are they coping? Are they showing signs of anxiety because of everything? This is extraordinary. You know, even walking down before you go to school, you say, "Oh, have you got your mask?" Just little comments like that. We'd never dream of ever. If someone had told us that a year ago, we'd go, "Nah, that won't happen." So it is no surprise that this has happened, and all we can do is make sure that actually we look back and say this was a good thing that happened, because maybe we wouldn't be here having this session a year ago. Maybe actually all of this has brought this out into the open, finally, that we can have these open discussions and we can deal with stuff like this. It certainly, when I was sending out messages to our guys and girls a year ago, it wouldn't be ending with lines like saying, you know, remember, it's okay not to be okay. If you've got any issues, my door's always open, that kind of stuff. So it has brought all this out into the open. But these figures are no surprise. If anything, then they're not as high as maybe they could have been, which is actually a positive thing.
Interestingly, I understand what Monty's saying there, Andy's saying there. With lockdown actually looking like it's, you know, there's more than like the end of the tunnel now. This was an area where, again, it shows how wrong it is to assume, because personally, I would have forecast this to maybe slightly higher than last August, but certainly not 3 times higher. And I know we've got the lack of sleep. I know we've got the opportunity bringing increased stress because of the opportunity, the opportunity that's brought with it. But I think, what this does for me is, very much shine a torch on what we're trying to do. And, without wanting to, jump ahead a slide, it actually just demonstrates and highlights just how important this topic is for the marketplace. So, this will be, it's certainly an initiative that will be sustainable, and I'll be interested to see what the benchmark looks like in 6 months' time. But what it does show, absolutely unequivocally, is you can't assume or forecast, because I just think there's so much unpredictability that is out there in terms of health and well-being that we can't take anything for granted.
Yeah, I think when this survey was, the results given last August, I think there was an element of us all thinking, because things became a bit more relaxed, and I don't know what anybody else thought, but I thought, oh, we're sort of coming out the other side, it's all looking a bit more positive. And then suddenly by November, you were in different tiers, and then by the 4th of January, you were in another lockdown. And I think people just feel thoroughly battered with it from every side. And it doesn't surprise me at all, and I'd agree. I actually thought it might be higher, but hopefully, if the survey was done again in August this year, it would show a decrease.
Yeah, Jason, when can we expect the 3rd survey for this?
Yeah, I think the plan at the moment is to do it end of September, early October. So yeah, we'll try and keep them on trend and in line with previous, really.
Okay, great. So it'll be interesting to see see what the reactions are to that one, the responses, sorry, and hopefully we won't see it rise, and that with the restrictions lifting, we might see it drop. So that's the aim. But I think this really does emphasise, the importance of talking about this, because it is clearly affecting a decent chunk of the market, and this kind of leads on to this quite astounding results on how many sick days people took related to mental health and well-being. The majority here took 0 days. Why do you think days off around mental health are not commonplace, considering the figure we're seeing here?
I think it's probably to do with the fact that people generally, when anything surrounds mental health, people have an issue with that in actually admitting it. Is the simple fact of the matter. You know, people can tell you they've got a headache, they've got stomach pains, they've got, you know, whatever it be. But it's unfortunately it's a very British thing, I think. When you say I've got, you know, I feel a bit stressed. I think we think that it's potentially frowned upon, and there's something really wrong with that person, and there's a bit of a stigma attached to it, which is and the sooner that this stigma is you know, put to bed and the better, because I think people generally have a difficulty talking about it, because you're almost admitting a frailty, a vulnerability that you don't want to admit. But this, you know, I can tell you because I've done it myself, by admitting it and going through the process and talking about it, the other side looks 100% better. Looks 100% better, and so I just think it's to do with the individuals. It's the perception of, crikey, if I tell somebody this, what will they think of me?
Definitely, and I think, you know, as you're saying, it is better once you do start speaking to someone, and, you know, having someone available at work you can talk to about these things will make the process a lot more approachable, and that you can talk to someone. And this definitely leads on to this piece of data, which shows that you know, just under 73% of respondents said that their company doesn't currently participate in any kind of mental health or well-being strategy, which is, you know, it's 3/4 of the market almost that don't, which is quite, you know, it's big. I was quite shocked by this. Jason, what do you think about these figures, and why do you think this is the case?
Yeah, look, I think these are this is the most staggering slide. So I think this, along with the, you know, the trebling of concern in terms of mental health, are the two slides that really stuck out for me. And when we started the campaign, I think, you know, people ask, well, what are you trying to achieve? And, you know, you'll indicate things around raising awareness, sharing hints and tips, and, you know, doing some fundraising for mine, which are all very aspirational at the time and all very relevant. But yeah, a real focus for me moving forward with the campaign is to change these statistics. So to actually ensure that more companies, more employers are actually participating and trying to deliver, you know, group and individual solutions that can, you know, help you know, people who are struggling. So I think this is a slide that I absolutely want to make it my mission to drive that yeah, that 73% to, you know, to a much different metric. So, you know, this is a real KPI for me as we move forward over the next 6 months. So we want more companies engaging and supporting their staff.
Are there any kind of initiatives that any of your companies, so Gavin and Paula and Andrew, have implemented that's been really helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind jumping in here. We've been, Shawbrook have been really good on this part, and I've spoken to Jason quite closely about it as well. We have employee assistance programs, we have mental health wellbeing clinics, we've got mental health first aiders, you know, just things like that you have. We have motivational weeks, you know, motivational Mondays, tranquil Tuesdays, wellness Wednesday, talk Thursdays, and have a fun Friday. The bank have been very supportive to all their employees throughout all of this, and I think it's something that was in place anyway, but it's been highlighted and fast-tracked a lot more, and I think it will stay, and I think more people need to embrace it, because yeah, look, it's not like you break your arm and it's pretty obvious to everyone that you've broken your arm, right? Like Scott said, this is something that people don't talk about, this is something that people can't see. So if you have the ability to be able to support people, especially within a corporate structure, then I think that to me is just a phenomenal thing, and an effort that every corporation should be doing, basically, fundamentally.
Yeah, I agree totally with Gavin. We're in the process of appointing wellbeing champions together. So I think that'll be really good, and they're getting a lot of training and support from Manchester Mind. So they'll become really good confidence, I think, for the staff, and somebody that you can go to and have a really honest and frank conversation with. So really looking forward to see how that changes in the business. And we do a few similar things, maybe not quite to the extent that Shawbrook have been doing, but we try and have what we call like team calls. So we do a lot of different things where, you know, obviously we can't socialise so much, but it's really important not to lose contact with your colleagues because you are working remotely. So we've had a few sort of fun Friday night things with quizzes and this sort of thing. And my colleagues will laugh because we've been doing where you hum a tune and everybody has to guess it. And just for the record, I evidently can't hum, so no one could guess any of mine. And my daughter seems to think I need a lot of help on that front. So yeah, but it's been good fun, and it breaks the barriers. And you know, as a manager, they can say, oh, you know, you're just, as you know, you're not doing it that well. And you know, I'm quite happy to poke fun at myself, and it helps sort of break a few barriers down. But yeah, interesting times. So.
I think we've talked quite a bit about, you know, having a good work-life balance throughout the slides there, and why it's so important. But how can what tips would you all give in terms of how we can help kind of set those boundaries which are really needed?
I'm waiting to hear the tips because I really struggle with this. I've struggled with this for years, as my wife would tell you, and I find it really difficult personally to have that work-life balance. I've been listening to actually, I think it's okay to plug his podcast, as Gary Dass does a really good podcast, and actually he talks a lot about that, and I found that quite helpful. But I think it's really difficult, and I've struggled with it for years. So please give me any words of wisdom.
I think it also depends. Things can happen in your life that make you change it. I'd agree with you, Andrew. I have always been like that, and work's always come first, and it still continues to. But sometimes I think, I was ill a couple of years ago. I had a mild stroke, fortunately, nothing too serious, was left with a few side effects for about 6 months, and then they passed, thankfully. But I suppose what it did, when you're sat in the hospital and you think you're infallible and you think that everything's absolutely fine, and suddenly somebody tells you, well, actually, if you're not very careful, you're not going to see very many more years. It sort of is a bit daunting and a bit upsetting, especially when, you know, you've got children as well. But I think a piece of advice somebody gave me a couple of years ago was, Paula, only worry about what's in your control. And when I took ill and that happened, and it is a wake-up call, you suddenly think, well, actually, I'm going to have to do something about this, or I'm not going to be here for my daughter. And so now I try and sort of say, well, what can I control in my day? Well, these are things I need to worry about. Anything else, I just need to park and let somebody else worry about that. That, along with sort of, I do a lot of walking now, which I wouldn't have done before. And back to the sleep point, I use, maybe people would think it's a bit strange, a lot of these essential oils, and I've got these diffusers where you put your lavender and your geranium and all in that. And believe it or not, they do actually help. They sort of calm you down. And so, but those are my tips, Andrew. But trust me, it was a wake-up call I wouldn't choose for anyone else to have, but it's amazing what it can do to you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've tried a lot of different things, and yeah, I had a similar thing when I had a stent put in a few years ago, mainly down to high cholesterol caused by stress. A lot of it, some of it is you carry with you, but yeah, so it works for a bit, and then I find it very difficult. So I agree. I always tell people, you know, you can only control what you can control. So don't worry. We can't worry about the market. Can't worry about all of this thing. We can only worry about our little space. But yeah, it's difficult, especially when you run a business and you think, actually, it's not just me I'm looking out for. I feel responsible for everyone within the business, and it's quite hard to have that switch off time. So I'm better at giving advice, really good at giving advice, but following it myself is quite difficult.
And I think, Beth, probably the hints and tips are probably at different levels here as well, because I think entrepreneurs and business leaders, trying to tell them or provide a steer on work-life balance is challenging, because one of the bits of magic dust they have is that work ethic, that drive, that determination. So trying to advise to step off the hamster wheel and take the foot off the pedal, it's counterintuitive for them. And I think the term that I quite like is work-life integration. So I think there's an opportunity, and I don't always practice what I preach, but I used to feel I'd work long days, but I'd feel very, very guilty if I nipped off during the day to attend a parents' evening, or nipped off during the day to go to the gym. In reality, it was ridiculous that I'd feel guilty, because the workload's still there. I'm just choosing to do it at a different time. So having choice and making choices that enable that family and work life integration to best occur, I think is something that I'm trying really hard to get right. And it was interesting when Andrew and I did the interview together. We were both literally, it was middle of the day, 1 o'clock maybe, but we were running with sandwiches in our hands and literally eating just as we were starting the conversation. So we don't always practice what we preach, but I quite like the term work-life integration, and choosing and making choices that enable you to combine both family and professional career.
Completely agree, and I think one of the key things here as well, to be able to kind of establish that and boundaries between work and your personal life is communication. And I know we do it within our team, and I'll if anyone's going for a walk or going to the shop or taking a break or doing whatever they want to do, and there's no kind of set time for that. It's just just let everyone know I'm popping out, and it just means don't expect me to answer my phone during the next 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is. Which I think is really important. I don't think people should be, especially if you work from home, bombarding people when we do need to take a break. So I think that's really, really important. And also, it's great to see that people can be a bit more flexible, like you say, if you want to go and pick your kids up from school, or go to a parents' meeting, or whatever it is. You can come back and continue with work at home. But I also think it's really important not to work really late every night either. And that's something I definitely have done, where I might have done something at 5 o'clock and then work till late, and then you're like, actually, I'm not getting the sleep I need. So I think that's also really important. Another question I have is about kind of the lockdown restrictions easing, and how companies should be approaching a return to office working. Obviously, there will be many different approaches here, and there isn't a perfect approach. But we all need to keep in mind employees' individual circumstances from a mental and physical health perspective. So what are you all seeing, and what do you think is a good approach?
So we kind of we're all remote. The whole business is remote still, and the conversations coming up. The senior management teams are talking about it. Exco level are talking about it now, and it's going to be quite fluid. And I think quite a few other people will be quite fluid. There's things that you miss about going back to work in normal circumstances, and things you don't. So I think Andrew touched on the commute. I really don't miss that at all. Do I miss the interaction with my colleagues? 100%. If it's just walking to make a cup of coffee and you stop by someone's desk and they join you and you chat for 10 minutes, make a coffee, have a catch up, that to me is a little support group that you don't, I think you took it for granted. You didn't even realise you had it, I think, half the time. I think once you've been put into a lockdown and moved out of the office. So it's trying to get that balance of what's right for one might not be right for another, but I think there'll be, as long as it's fluid and flexible, which a lot of employers are going to be, and I think some of the guys on the call here will probably be in the same mindset. If you want to go back in the office full time, go for it. COVID secure, etc. In the right environment. But actually, a lot of businesses will probably be quite relaxed if you do want to continue to work from home. And you can go to that parents' evening, or you can go to that school play, and you can bottle that proudness as a parent and spray it on yourself occasionally when your life-work balance isn't quite right, that kind of thing. So that's where I kind of see it.
Another question I have is about kind of responsibility, and this kind of moves on from what you're saying, Gavin. The responsibility of each business to come up with solutions to tackle the problem of workplace stress. This does result in millions of days lost per year. How can we? Why is it the responsibility of businesses to come up with this solution? And also, how crucial are mentors when it comes to workplace stress and guidance on health and well-being? And then Jason, I think you're probably going to be best to answer this one.
Well, so I think the look, for me, it's simply logical when it comes to companies investing in people and investing in talent. Great people usually deliver great companies. So to ensure that the people around you are supported in the most appropriate way, and there's a listening and there's an understanding which takes place is absolutely crucial. So as I touched on a little bit earlier, I find it staggering that companies aren't shining a light in this particular area. Talent is talent, and ultimately, we as if we're leading businesses, we need to invest and make sure the support is absolutely the best it can be for people around us. I think with regard to the crucial aspects of mentors, as I touched on earlier, I think we've got I'm humbled to have the people who are on the webinar with us today to volunteer their time and to share their stories in the way that they've actually done as part of the interview series is enlightening. All brilliant stories to actually be told, but ultimately raising the hands and actually offering themselves to be there to listen and support others, I just think is a fantastic just a fantastic action for the people to actually take. So I'm humbled by that, but as I say, I just think with companies, I find it bizarre how you wouldn't invest in your talent and in your people. So yeah.
Brilliant, thanks for that, Jason. I just wanted to, we're almost running out of time, but I have kind of one final question about workplace culture and how this affects employees' mental health and well-being, and why culture should be considered a key part of business growth and investments. Scott, is that something that you want to answer?
Yeah, I can do. I think the culture of any business is absolutely crucial. In fact, it's fundamentally the core of and the fabric of any business is having a create a culture, whatever that may be, whatever you want the business to purport to be. I think in financial services, the culture of a business is I've been fortunate to work in over the period of time of my lifespan. In fact, probably 3 financial services businesses who all had culture at the absolute core of what they did, and values and so on and so forth. And I, I've always sort of lived by those. I think in terms of purveying that culture to staff is you've got to do that, because otherwise what you've got is like, I've got a team of 12 advisors. What you've got is 12 different people who believe in different things, and the culture is completely different from one to the next, because then you've got a lack of integrity and respect between each other. So everybody's got to be on the same page when you do these things. There's got to be a level of buy-in, if you like, for want of a better phrase, that you're all on the same boat, you're all sailing in the same direction. And that's not to clone people, by the way. Not we're very individual people. All of us on this call are very individual, but we all share a common objective, common goal. We all want fundamentally the same thing, and I think around that, Jason's absolutely right. And again, I'll always revert it back to this sort of British culture, if you like, of being afraid to say things to each other, because you're afraid of what that person might say, or who else they'll tell, and what they might think of you, and so on and so forth. I mean, I can tell you from our business, communication is absolutely key. It fundamentally, in any business with any staff member, is to talk. We have, rightly or wrongly, I have all my 12 staff members, advisors, on a call at 10:15 every single morning for half an hour, and we go through the previous day's activity and today's activity. And you know what, along the way we have a load of banter, an absolute stack of it, where we have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke. It's all, you know, and then we bring it back to serious stuff. And as Monty's posts before, you know, I think you've got to leave your door wide open for any of these people to come to you at any time and talk to you, whatever it may be. And I have some of the weirdest, most wonderful conversations throughout the day that I just go, crikey, I didn't wake up and think that was going to happen, but it does. And I think you've got to cultivate that for them to be able to come to you openly and say, actually, my auntie's done this or my brother's doing this. You just have to listen. You don't even have to respond. You just listen. And you go, okay, what does that mean? I think culture is very important in business. It's got to be, you know, and ours is no different to any one of the guys on this call.
I totally agree with Scott. I think culture is everything, and it's no surprise that the FCA themselves are focusing on the culture of a company. If you've got the right culture in the company, you're doing the best not only for your staff, but you're doing the best for your clients, which means that they're having good solutions. So that culture is absolutely key. We did it by coming up with our own DNA, which is how we monitor everyone. I go on about it all the time, something I'm really passionate about. And, you know, even the bonuses that we pay people, part of it is linked to them in line with the DNA and them exposing those values. And that's something that's really, really important. And all of this is great. And actually, I'm really enthused of how much we as an industry seem to have moved on this. There are some great companies really leading the way on this, and a lot of the new companies who are coming up, that's how they're founded. They're founded on the very definition of culture and doing things right and looking after people. And I think we've got a really, really good future. I think there's still a long way to go with some companies, but I think that culture isn't going to go away. It's really, really important. And if you're working in a company that you don't feel has that culture, then you need to change it from within and speak to the powers that be and talk to them about it.
Thanks for that. We've now just gone past 2 o'clock. I just want to check, is my audio okay for everyone?
Yeah.
I've occasionally been underwater, so sorry for any of that. But yes, we've just gone past 2 o'clock, so I'll need to kindly bring today's discussion to a close. That was a really fantastic conversation, and there was some interesting answers to the questions there. So I just want to thank Jason and Crystal for partnering with us on this, and Jason specifically for all the work you do to raise awareness around mental health. The industry really appreciates it. Also, thank you to our fantastic panel for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. And also want to thank you, our audience, for joining us to listen to this really important topic. We will be publishing this roundtable in full next week on B&C for those that weren't able to make today's live event, and also if you fancy replaying anything you might have missed. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you attend our next virtual roundtable, which is tomorrow morning at 11 AM, where we will be discussing the changing appetite of buy-to-let investors this year and beyond. We're hosting events almost every week this year, and if you'd like to sponsor one, you can drop me an email at beth@medianet.co.uk. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much to our panelists, and have a fantastic rest of your day. We really look forward to welcoming you to our next event.